Hello there, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of URC Unloaded with myself, John Barclay, and Tom Shanklin. It's been a crazy week with games being cancelled, teams stuck in South Africa, and of course, the league leaders, Leinster, getting beaten on their home patch. We'll be chatting through all the main talking points from the weekend, but first of all, I'm delighted to say that we are now joined by Leinster's head coach, Leo Cullen. Well, Leo, how are you getting on?
Not too bad, thanks. Yeah, we've had a challenging few days. Disappointing performance at the weekend and result as well. So Ulster were good, so we were not good enough, unfortunately. Won't be any easier this week.
Just on that result, Leo, obviously you probably planned to go into this week off the back of a win. But do you take more sometimes out of a loss like that than putting out a similar team and beating somebody else by 30 or 40 points? I take it there's been a few of the lads have been brought back down to earth after that result.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. So I think there was a lot of positive work went into that first block of 5 games, and which led to a number of guys getting selected for Ireland during the November series, which is great for some of the individuals involved. We tried to work away here in the background. We knew it was going to be a tough challenge against Ulster. You saw Ulster against Connacht. Obviously, Connacht had played the Derby game against Munster, where they were very unlucky to lose that game, and you could see the level of intensity that they brought to that Ulster game. And for us, we were aware of it, but sometimes you really gotta feel it to understand it. So, and I thought Ulster brought great level of physicality and aggression in all the different contact points in the game. So. And our guys, I thought, fought back well into the game. It's not like we lacked, desire and commitment and all the rest, but maybe just a little bit slow out of the blocks. And Ulster did well to I guess when we got in the ascendancy at one point it was 10-7. We had that penalty under the post, then we go 10-0. We don't exit particularly well. Give away a cheap penalty. Ulster, fairness, to kick the penalty, and obviously they come up with that intercept at the end, and we squander a couple of chances at the end. But again, that's just us being a little bit off, I think, over the course of the game. So it's very disappointing to lose at home always. I thought there was a great crowd at the game, great atmosphere at the game, and two teams going fully at it, and Ulster were better on the day, unfortunately for us.
And just the accuracy from
Leo, first I just want to welcome John.
Sorry, I think your internet connection's maybe not the best there, Shanks, is it?
You had a guy coming in there as well, Shanks, did you?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, go on ahead, Shanks.
I was going to say, first off, welcome to John. I think you missed him out on the intro. So, John, great to have you here from America. I do not. Oh, maybe I didn't. It must be the internet connection. Anyway, forget that. Leo, you've set the bar high, right? Over league, over Europe with the winning ratio, and coaches feel pressure when they don't win. They're looking for a result. But how much pressure do you feel to win and to perform again and again?
I think it's positive pressure. Of course, there's pressure, yeah, but I don't see that as a negative. The group internally here are very, very driven. They want to be successful. The group is evolving all the time, so it's changing. There's at the end of every season, a couple of older guys would potentially move on. Some more younger guys you would ideally like to push into the team and play a bigger part. So I see it as a positive pressure. But if you didn't have pressure, you'd be wondering why you're doing it. Because everyone wants to be there at the end of the season, and you've got to do a hell of a lot of work to get to that point. So it's always interesting to listen to teams at the start of the campaigns. I know we have a European campaign that's going to kick off next weekend, but at the start of URC, new competition, you're hearing all the different sound bites. Everyone's coming out, they want to win, trophies, all the rest. So it's a competitive space to be in. But you've got to go through the grind of winning the games and going through it. So they're always hard earned, as we found out ourselves at the weekend.
Leo, just on that, I think you're kind of touching on it there. How much of your job is squad management? Because we see Leinster team changes quite a lot from week to week to week. You have the luxury of that squad. How hard is that? Because you've got a squad, not a team, full and loaded of internationals. How do you manage that culture, and how do you manage those players? Is that like a big part of your job?
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. Because there's bits in that question that you've touched on where there's complications with the group for sure, because you have a lot of very, very competitive guys that want to get picked. There's different challenges during the season. The season structure, as we know, is now slightly different, because last year was very unusual, because obviously you were trying to finish the season, then you roll straight into the following season. If you remember, we got knocked out against Saracens in quarterfinal of Europe, which was the previous year's tournament, and you were straight in starting the new campaign the following week, which was pretty bizarre. And you roll into another big season again. So this year it's a little bit cleaner. How we managed that November break, again, that was something that was new to us. Based purely on the result, where you lose your first game back. We always know we have to work very, very hard in terms of those reintegration weeks. And this week is going to be pretty similar for us as well, because we had a number of guys that were off last week, and they're going to come back into the selection mix this week. So there's all those moving parts all the time. But again, I see it as a positive complaint, because it creates challenges, but it's only based on the fact that that's actually led to, guys have got selected and gone on to play for Ireland, which is what we all want. We want all the guys to be able to go on and achieve success at international level as well. So there's always those moving parts. Go back to even the start of the season. So a lot of guys that say that played in the summer tests wouldn't have been available to play in pre-season. So they're starting cold. First game of the season against the Bulls. Some of those guys that were away with the Lions came back later again. So anyway, there's always those bits that go into it. So it's a long season, for our players to play whatever X amount of internationals, November plus Six Nations, and potentially a tour as well. Then it's Europe and URC games. Even the way the structure is at the end of the season is slightly different. So you're trying to manage all those variables. And that's why some of the selections, as standalone, sometimes don't make necessarily that much sense to people at a glance. But internally here, we're always trying to keep an eye on the bigger picture as well, making sure that, particularly with younger players, that they're getting enough experience at the right times as well. That's the piece, which is just managing a lot of the individuals that affects, I guess, during the course of the year.
Leo, one man who I certainly didn't expect to see start for Leinster last week was Tadhg Furlong. Obviously, firstly, did you have an issue at tight head, and is that one of the reasons why he was involved? And secondly, just on him, from a coach who has coached him for a significant period of time now, how good is it to have him signed up for another 3 years? And lastly, did you have an input in getting him his big contract?
So we'll go reverse order then. No, mainly the union there. So it's credit to the union for coming to the table with Tadhg, and he's been such a key player for Ireland. You saw how effective he's been in the last couple of Lions tours as well, in New Zealand as a young tight head, and in South Africa as a more experienced but still relatively young for a tight head prop. So for him to commit for another 3 years is great for Ireland, but obviously we benefit massively off the back of that as well. So he's growing all the time in terms of his own leadership, more confidence now as well. Because younger players sometimes it takes a while to find their voice in many ways, and but Tadhg is definitely growing more and more into that role, because he's a ton of experience, and he's very, very knowledgeable, diligent, in his game understanding as well. So and then in terms of the first part was just
with him being involved at the weekend. Obviously there was a lot of the other Irish guys who had played big game time over the autumn, didn't come back and play for the respective provinces. So what was the thinking behind Tadhg starting the game and playing a large part of that too?
Yeah, so the logic that was being well planned out in advance as well, because if you remember he only came back for round 4. So he'd only played 2 games leading into November. So obviously played the 3 tests. Mike Alalatoa, who's another tight end with us as well. He, again, Samoa were due to play the Barbarians. That game never actually took place, but Mike was due to play in that game. So we had that conversation, even though that's outside the window. That was something that Mike was keen to do, and Tadhg was keen to basically help out Mike as well to try and facilitate that. So again, that's probably going back to some of the management piece around some of the individuals. But it was great to have Tadhg for the game. He's been great for us, so we missed him at various different stages last year, Tadhg. It's important to remember as well around some of those big games that we would have had earlier in the season, finishing the previous season. So, hopefully he's going to be a big player for Leinster and Ireland over the next 3 years.
Yeah, in terms of like man management, like come a Monday morning and the whispers are filtering through from like the snitches in the clubs, like the strength and conditioning coaches, the physios, maybe some of the bin juice players. Who's the hardest to manage as a group? Is it the forwards or the backs? Who are the ones that you sort of got your head in your hands Monday thinking, oh my God, they've done it again?
Well, the forwards obviously are a bit more black and white, so backs they operate a bit more grey, and what if this happens, what if that happens? So, they're all good. I wouldn't have a bad word to say, but they're all great.
All right, another question I got for you. What about pre-game then? Because sometimes pre-game you see a couple of players like having a laugh and a joke, and sometimes you see the coaches having a little word with each other pre and post-game. What are you talking about there? You hammering the Irish Rugby Football Union, or you talking budgets? You talking players?
Between coaches, you mean? Coaches.
Yeah.
Just catching up on what's going on in their worlds, and it's great. Like those moments are very, very positive, I think, for coaches, because you don't really get that opportunity post game. The way things are now, a lot of teams are you're straight out. There's a bit of media, etc., and you're on the bus and off to the airport, or off up the road, or whatever that is. But so that bit of time before the game, because when you're obviously being a player and then you go into coaching, because a player you're obviously very focused on all the things you've worked on. What do you want to focus on during the game? Getting ready for that. The level of physicality you need to bring potentially at the start of a match, depending on what position obviously you're playing. But as a coach, you're just getting ready to sit in the box and making sure you're thinking clearly. But it's always nice to catch up with other coaches, because you're all facing similar problems during the course of a season. So that bit is useful, because it's sharing problems and the challenges, etc. So
Netflix series, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not good in that topic, but it's an unusual job, rugby coaching, I think. So there's not that many people you go to bounce ideas off. So because every start of the season, you go to the launch, whatever it is, 12, 14, 16 teams, the number has changed, but by the end of the season, it's very rare they're all still in situ at the end of the season. So we're all very sympathetic towards each other. So there's a good natural bond there, I think, with some of the head coaches in particular.
Yeah, we've seen Tadhg Furlongs, obviously his big money and long-term extension. I got to ask: is Johnny Sexton any rumours? Anything you can give us there on? We saw he extended. I'm sure you won't give us it, but do you get fed up of people asking what you're going to do with him? Because he's still playing, for me, some of the best rugby. So I get frustrated listening. It must be frustrating for him and for you. But any plans for him to stick around until 2026?
2026.
He can make it, couldn't he?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier on. Yeah, so new 5-year deal from.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, he's the main thing is Johnny's playing well, like that, for his own personal point of view. He had to deal with some of the disappointment of missing out on Lions selection. He seems to be
playing more as well this year, just at the start of the season as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so obviously the missing out on that, and it's an important piece for for players, when you have to deal with some level of disappointment to be able to turn the page. And for him, that was, in many ways, we were the beneficiaries of that, because he was around all pre-season, great in terms of driving standards around training, and he was able to commit to a good block of training. Always will manage some of the older guys. It feels funny for me to talk about Sexton as one of the older guys, because he was always one of the younger guys when I was playing. So it feels strange for me talking about it as one of the older guys. But he got through a great block of work in pre-season, which sets him up for the start of the season. We played Quins in pre-season down at the Aviva, and he was nervous going into that game. You just say, like, his first pre-season game, I think he played for Leinster in 10 plus years, I think. So slightly unusual, but very, very beneficial, I think, pre-season for him. And he's carried that form into November. Unfortunately, he picked up that knock in the New Zealand game. So, but he's not a million miles away now. He's rehabbing away. So, so he's got himself in good shape over the course of that block. So, he turned the period or that disappointment into a positive.
So the contract extension is coming, isn't it?
Well, 5-year deal anyway. Get you as his agent potentially.
Leo, just looking forward, as a coach, you're always looking ahead. And obviously you've Connacht this weekend. A couple of people online asking questions just about, what problems they're going to cause you, and have you been impressed with how they've approached their season, and especially their last game in those horrendous conditions down in Galway? They really put the Ospreys to the sword.
Yeah, I turned it on Friday night, and you could see obviously the conditions and everyone talking about the conditions. But the way they played, Connacht, the intensity brought to the game, they didn't really skip a beat, did they, since their previous outing against Ulster, which, again, we were very impressed with the level of physicality that they brought to that game, and plus the skill and execution of what they were trying to do as well. So, they're going to be a handful. They were a handful this year. They beat us, obviously, in the RDS last year around Christmas time as well. So, they're a well-coached team. Leinster traditionally we've struggled against Connacht. Think back the 20 years or so that I've been involved, and we've had many a tough outing, because there's a lot of ex-Leinster guys there, in particular as well, that we know are highly motivated. Similar to the Ulster gang last week as well, where there's a good chunk of Leinster guys there as well, and they have a real point to prove. They're coming to the RDS with friends and family and all the rest. So we know it's a big day for those guys. So it's important that we're respectful of that. So we need to be able to match the level of intensity that we know that they're going to bring. So, we weren't good enough, obviously, at the weekend. You see the likes of Greg Jones, Nick Timoney, John Cooney, Alan O'Connor, Mick Kearney. There's a good chunk of guys there. And, Connacht are going to have something similar. I still don't know what their team is going to be, but they will have a number of guys that will be coming to the RDS and with a real point to prove. And, I've a lot of respect for all those guys and, the way they do front up in this fixture in particular. So our guys need to make sure that they're ready for that challenge.
Yeah, Leo, just on big days and big games, just a last question or final word. Somebody that you played with and have coached over the years, Rob Kearney. Obviously, a huge disappointment that the Babas game didn't go ahead. But just a word from you on how good a career he had and what he brought to the party at Leinster.
I remember I was coaching at Blackrock School against Clongowes in the Schools Cup final, and Rob was playing for Clongowes. Luke Fitzgerald, oddly enough, was playing for Blackrock. So those guys, would have gone back. And they were two huge standouts. Rob was freakish talent. You could see, very well developed physically at a young age. Massive left boot, very commanding in the air, unbelievably strong as well. So he was, and he was like a rock solid presence for Ireland and Leinster on so many big days. So, it was a pity about the Babas. He trained with us the week before, which was great to see him back. So we had a session on a Thursday, and he came out originally just to do some kicking, but I said, you may as well just join in with the lads here. So he did some skills, ran around with a great group, which was great. It was really cool to see someone that, had obviously been away with the force and had that experience overseas in Australia. But yeah, to come back in, so yeah, it was great to see him back. And obviously, pity that game got called off. But I think he believes he's getting married this weekend, so at least his looks are saved. So there's no black eyes on his wedding day that I know of.
That's brilliant. No, Leo, we appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll see you at some stage during the season again. Thanks very much for coming on, and best of luck this week against Connacht. And I'll chat to you soon, big man. Thanks, Mill.
Okay, thanks, guys. Take care now.
Thanks, Leo. Goodbye.
Lads, we'll move swiftly on, and I suppose just picking up off the back of Leo Cullen and him talking about that Ulster game. You two boys watched it. What were your thoughts on the intensity that Ulster brought to it?
First off, I generally thought he was talking about me when he's talking about Rob Kearney. Like just being really physically developed, great left peg. On a close by, I say, well, Steve, it must be big for you, right? Because I know you lost your watch prior to the game.
Watchgate.
Yeah, and I know you wanted to claim it on insurance. Christmas is coming up, and you wanted to make sure the family had everything they wanted, but someone found it down the driving range. So unlucky about that. It's like £4,000 short now before Christmas. So that game. How'd you lose it down a driving range?
Smashing.
Right, so I went for a golf lesson down at Laganview Golf Centre down the road, and I actually picked my watch up that morning from the jewelers because I needed a new battery and a few things. So I wore it to the driving range, and I can remember in my head thinking that I'd taken it off. Obviously, put your glove on, hit a few balls, but that wasn't the case. And I only brought a few wedges. It wasn't like it was smashing drivers. So whatever I've done, it's come off my wrist. The actual strap sliced. There's a couple of slices in it, and it's flowing down the driving range. But who cares, lads? I've got it back, and I'll also get the insurance claim as well on top of it. So happy days.
Double.
So what was your question then? I forgot.
Ulster game, Ulster Leinster, huge physicality, Shanks, just with the way Ulster approached the game. Lots of former Leinster players playing for Ulster, and they really took it to Leinster, especially in that opening 20 minutes.
Yeah, you're probably the best one to talk about this, mate, because I think you cover the game and you're a massive Ulster fan. But yeah, I mean, you talk us through it. What was the difference? Because that's a result you probably wouldn't pick out at the start of the game. Ulster beaten at the Yard, yes. Maybe, if it was
also, because you said Ulster been not that good this year, potentially. They won a lot of games. They've not performed like that anyway. Nowhere near that level all season.
No, they haven't. It was the intensity in the first 15, 20 minutes. I think it was 16 something on the clock that Leinster actually got a bit of control in the ball, and Ulster just kept holding on to it. They played a really smart game, hit the middle of the field, back down the short side, hit the middle of the field, back down the short side again. Didn't put that much width on it at all, and just kept frustrating Leinster by maintaining possession and just working hard around the corner. And even guys like Andy Warwick in the front row, Marty Moore threw himself all over the pitch. He was exceptional. He hasn't played much rugby this season. Alan O'Connor in the second row, former Leinster player, he really muscled up. The back row lads took it to them. John Cooney, obviously, he had a point to prove with young Nathan Doak playing so well over the last couple of months. So, it was just got off to a really good start, and they maintained it. Although Leinster were off colour, they just weren't at the races at all. They couldn't get a foothold in the game. And when they did, it was 10-7, lads. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Actually, Leo touched on it in his interview there. They got a penalty 5 meters out, right in front of the post. And I was like, right, here we go. They're going to pick and go, get over for a try. And then the heads are going to drop with Ulster. And that didn't happen. They kicked over the 3 points. And Ulster were just they felt they could get back down the field and get stuck into them. But an incredible result. And to be honest, the 20 points to 10 scoreline doesn't do it justice.
What about James Hume? Is he going to be properly knocking on the door soon for a starting position for Ireland? There's obviously a bit of a pecking order before that, but another good game. He's got youth on his side. He's 23 years old. Had a really good game at the weekend. I enjoy watching him play. He's a good player.
He
saw
doesn't normally defend like that, though, Shank. You know, like, in terms of how they defend the week, that's not how Ulster normally defend. I don't know if you've got any insight. That was obviously a clear tactic they almost blitz, which is not what they normally do. Jared Payne must have done just to change that in a week is really hard against the quality of opposition. But they came obviously with a tactic to fly out the blocks and to keep coming.
Sometimes you've got surprise teams, haven't you? Like, to beat good teams, you've got to throw something out there. We played Australia once, and they had a new player playing for him called Lottie Takiri. He'd come from rugby league, so we targeted him off kickoffs. Like the first kickoff, we put it deep on Lottie Takiri. He ran it back to our 40-metre line. We're like, that right. We'll end that. Do not kick it on him. But sometimes you do have to do that because it takes teams by surprise, doesn't it? And you see that sometimes defensively. You see teams set, and then when the ball's put into the scrum, they'll adjust. They move a little bit further out, and they'll come out to win just to mix up a bit to keep teams thinking. But whatever they did, it obviously worked. And what about the try celebration, Stevie? From
well, I'm over to Ospreys this weekend, covering Ospreys Ulster, and I've got a 2-minute chat with James Hume beforehand. So it's going to be one of my questions just about the try celebration. I know previously in a couple of games he scored a try, and the try celebration that he performed there was a reason behind it, but I'm not sure what I'd like to ask him about this one. I'm shrugging his shoulders. I'm not too sure. Do you know what? He comes across as a really confident young man, believes in his own ability. I think he feels deep down he should have been given a shot during the autumn internationals, and I kind of like that about him. I think that's a good thing, and he's playing really, really well. And you talk about this blitz defence. If you remember back to that quarter-final in the European Cup where Ulster should have beaten Leinster at the Aviva Stadium, I think Cavey was playing that day. Stockdale dropped the ball in the corner. That game, they had a blitz defence all day, and Leinster couldn't deal with it. So maybe with Ross Byrne starting in this game, as he did in that game, they maybe went after something there, and they just continued it on, and it obviously reaped the rewards of it with that intercept try at the end. But good performance.
Have you boys had any try celebrations? Have you done anything stupid after scoring, or to someone? No.
I'm
probably asking.
You played that game at the easy game when you scored 13 points against Scotland in the last 6 minutes. Remember that game?
No, I remember it. I watched it from the bench. They were saving me for Italy.
Did you not go on?
No, they're saving me for
big game,
Italy
the next
week. Yeah,
I scored that game, got up through the ball and tore my oblique. That was good. and I actually came back to halfway, and Jim Hamilton said I launched the ball. And he said that ball hit someone in a wheelchair sat in the front row of the car. It didn't. But...
That's Jim for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Make you feel even worse. I've had none either.
Lads, we'll keep moving on because I know we're pushed for time. We need to keep moving on. John, come to you quickly on the Kings across the border. Edinburgh playing some scintillating rugby. They played against the Dragons, and what a game as well. Some really top-notch rugby over the weekend. Just your thoughts and opinions on where Edinburgh are at the minute.
This is probably not going to be a popular opinion. They scored some mega tries, played some great rugby. All court rugby, literally running the ball from everywhere. But the game management is still a problem. You can't play like that against Leinster, I don't think. But you can see, for me, the improvement from last year to this year, the way they're trying to play the game, it's literally worlds apart from the brand of rugby they're trying to play. And the actually guys look like they're enjoying it. Young guys coming through. Damien Hoyland played really well, scored the try right at the end to get a bonus point. They're playing really nice rugby, but I still think they're a team that's it sounds harsh because they beat a away win 30 points to 14, but I think they still need to evolve their style of play a little bit. But I love watching them play.
How slow with Dragons as well out of the blocks? Obviously Edinburgh have got a slightly different style this year, like you say. They're less pragmatic. They seem to want to attack more, but I couldn't believe how slow the Dragons were. And there's not real excuse, is there, for a slow start to a game, because energy levels should be high. Concentration levels should be high. You're not tired. You should be able to fly into games.
Some of the teams, I thought some of the teams, that's maybe Mike Blair or how they prepared for the week or something. Like Ulster came out firing after 4-week break. I think Edinburgh the same. But then Glasgow looked sluggish as hell coming out of the blocks. Leinster didn't look like themselves. I don't know that 4-week break of how they prepare. I meant to ask Leo if they'd done like a hit out, or I know Glasgow played like an Edinburgh select. And who was I chatting to? I can't remember who else I was chatting to. One of the teams that did a similar thing where they had a hit out. So yeah,
but Jamie Roberts didn't look like himself either. Sure, he didn't.
Well, because of his hair, or the way. Yeah, I mean, he's a good mate, so you know, I don't think it's right that we show. I don't think it's right that we show that clip.
You asked for that clip, Shanks.
Once. I want to see it again. Here we are.
Here we go.
Shanks, I've got the screenshot. You asked for it.
How good did he play, Bradbury? Though, like he's a proper wrecking ball. Isn't he?
Nice shift there, Shanks.
He's a wrecking ball.
He played well. He did play well. I think a lot of guys. It's interesting getting new coaches. Some guys get an opportunity or almost like a rebirth. He's a guy that's had. I think he's got about 20 caps. Didn't play a lot under Cockers. There was rumours that he was going to be moving clubs, but he's playing well. A lot of the guys coming through there playing well, enjoying the rugby, which is half the battle.
I'll tell you one player as well. Like I know the Dragons weren't great the weekend, but Jordan Williams makes such a difference when he plays at 15. He was brilliant against Connacht a few weeks prior to this. Like that was the game. That was the only game they've won, the Dragons, this year. And you think they're going to kick on after that, but then they lose to the Stormers towards the end. But Jordan Williams looked good in attack. Like he created one try.
He was a smart when I was there. He is one of the most talented guys, but one of the too relaxed player. I remember we did a session and Easterby was still there, and you'd obviously know him pretty well. Stevie, maybe not as a coach, but Jordan, we're training, and he just put the ball round of line, put the ball down the corner, and Easter stopped training, went mad at him because it wasn't game mentality. He should have put it under the post. So he made him kick it. So he made him kick the conversion from the touchline. So he kicked it with his left foot and it went over. He literally does not care. Super relaxed, super talented. When he gets to the ball, he looks unbelievable for drag. He's not had a cap, has he? No. I don't think
everyone in Wales has had a cap, mate. We're all capped.
Taking them away, mate.
Yeah.
Well, talking about leaving it late and kicking over penalties or conversions, Benetton have done it a few times this season to win games. Yet again, John, I'll come to you. Like Glasgow, you tipped them for maybe a top 3 or 4 finish in the league to get into the playoffs this year. Do you still think they're at it, or do you think that they're just off the mark? Because Benetton, you should be able to get the job done surely when you're in that position.
You'd say so. And Danny Wilson was, fuming. This is the same as what we saw against Edinburgh, the last minute drop kick. Benetton played some good rugby, but Glasgow should have won that game. But they didn't. I say that they didn't actually play very well, so maybe they didn't. They look sluggish. They look lethargic. They didn't get their game going.
But lots of teams don't play well against Benetton and still win.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
So,
they're taking
why are Glasgow struggling a little bit?
I don't know. It's just one of those games. I think they went away and they actually pretty much went fully loaded. Apart, they missed a couple of guys who arguably make a big difference to them. Xander Fagerson, Scott Cummins wasn't there, but they had pretty much fully loaded. I'd say they missed Ryan Wilson, who was obviously away with the Babas that week. But they're not quite fine, but they're still in that transitional stage. Still quite a young team. Which we saw a lot of last year in terms of lots of high error count, easier games going away. But just that you're losing that game. They were 5 meters out with a minute and a half to play from Benetton's line, and then I think went penalty, one of which was pretty soft, if not a non-penalty. But that's the game. A bit of maturity, a bit of game management, probably, but I guess it's lacking a bit of leadership potentially in there with some of the senior guys missing.
Completely switched off, because you're thinking you've won that game, minute and a half to go, you're down on their line, and you just can't do that. Especially like Benetton are a good team. Like, and if Glasgow won that 18-16, we'd be saying, they've done well to scrap a win there. It's a tough place to go, but to be in that position, it's terrible, really. To come,
Edinburgh did the exact same. They had the maul on the line and then dropped it. I think another penalty. yeah, I think you've got to tip your hat to Benetton because they've obviously got way more resolve about them this year. But like you say, like if you're a player, you're like, that's crap. Like you can't. You're
only talking about man of the matches. Who's going to win it for Glasgow?
You got to shift it around. That's one of those ones you think you look back and if they miss the playoffs by, 2 points but you get what you deserve in this game.
Yeah. Well, Glasgow got Dragons at home this week, so hopefully they'll put things right. And probably, in my opinion, like I think it was the game of the weekend. Connacht playing against the Ospreys. Like I don't know, I expected so much more from the Ospreys this season, and they haven't delivered at all. But like the weather conditions in Galway were absolutely horrific. But yet some of the rugby that they played was scintillating, sublime. Jack Carty, as we can see, putting one up. It probably wasn't his best kick, but even still, it went 15, 20 yards behind him. It was so bad, and there was lots of errors from Ospreys, but this try here from Connacht, running
pick of the bunch, isn't it?
From the pick of the bunch.
McNulty played really well. Made a break there for this try. It's just good link play, isn't it? With Mac Hansen, who's absolutely on fire. But McNulty scores another one. Created that one, scores one himself. It's his first start and didn't look like his first start. Looked really confident. And if you're going to pick a game where a team's going to score 7 tries, you look at that game pretty much. You're thinking, nah, that's not happening. You're thinking a game like remember when you won, John, in was it 2012 against Australia in like unbelievable conditions? It's like 9-6.
Yeah.
So, it's like the only reason you won is because it was like a hurricane.
Smashed them.
A hurricane. But
you say Benetton's a hard place to play. The sports ground for me is up there as well.
Yeah.
You've got to go. You've got to step over the dog track. It doesn't
it's the
scream,
walk, isn't it?
It's the walk. It doesn't scream. But as a home player, you thrive off that. And they've got a great stand, but the conditions but Ospreys have been not.
You look at like Sammy Arnold's try. It's a really good try. And he finishes it really well. He's a strong player, but you shouldn't be getting through that easily a defensive line. But saying that, I do really like Sammy Arnold. I think he's a class player.
And Ospreys, Shanks, like as I touched on there was this expectation with Toby Booth in there, and obviously the club's been bought over, renamed the stadium. I know that's the football side of things, but like, what is it? Can you put your finger on why it's just not clicking for them?
Injuries. It's easy answer.
But every team has injuries. Like it's not
I know. I think they don't look great in attack. I think defensively, prior to this game, they were pretty good. And I think it's where their attack lacked. They didn't really have much shape. They look a little bit clueless. A lot of their tries are down to, I think, a bit of individual brilliance rather than sort of systems and actually breaking teams down. They still need to find. Well, Gareth Anscombe needs to be fit for a start. I'm not sure if he's still injured or not because he wasn't involved with Wales for the last game, but he was out there kicking. So I think he was involved as sort of 24th, 25th man. But he needs to be back playing as much as he can because I think he's a quality player and he gives them something extra in attack. George North, I think, is heavily missed. I know every team has injuries, but these are 2 world-class players, if you like, especially George. So they just hit harder, I think, than a lot of other teams for international call-ups, maybe. Someone probably correct me and say, well, they haven't had many, but they're a team that just lacking a bit of confidence. And I think an attack, but then they just shipped 46 points. So not good in defence either.
We'll get on to how you think they'll do this week against Ulster in 5-10 minutes or so, lads. But we'll move on about the rant of the week. Has anybody got something on their mind that they would like to share that's been keeping them awake at night thinking about it?
Apart from old people like going through airport security, and people beeping their horn late at night, like when the kids are trying to go to sleep, like saying goodbye. They say goodbye like to the house. Right, bye, done your buys, but they feel the need to beep the horn like at 9 o'clock.
One thing I had, Shank, did you see Matt Giddo tweeted about it, about people in the gym? Like, so I don't know about you lads, but like you get into the gym, there's always like these lads that are going, wah, yeah, wah, giving it the, like, I turned around and I think I said to somebody like a few months back, you all right? Are you giving birth? Like it was so bad. So yeah, that's something that keeps me awake at night.
Yeah, I don't like that either. Gym attire as well. But no, I suppose that the rant of the week will have to be the teams that are stuck over in South Africa. I think there has to be a little bit of a rant there. I'm not sure what the Munster situation is, but Cardiff Rugby are due to travel tomorrow. I think there's 5 cases or 5 people that have to stay over there. Luckily, I think they're all doing okay. They're pretty well in themselves. But to not have, I don't think, any government help to get back, I don't think it's been great. I don't think it's been a great reflection on the Welsh government, considering that Cardiff Rugby arranged a hotel that could be quarantined, that could be secured. They have security so people couldn't get in and out. So they made it COVID safe. But to have no help from the Welsh government assistance, I think it is pretty poor. And it's like, I know people say, well, I was stuck on holiday and I didn't get any help, but it's different. Rugby teams are different because it's the entertainment industry. They were allowed to play during the pandemic last year. There's rigorous testing going on. It's an organisation, not an individual. So I think they need to be treated differently. It's not like it was their choice. It's not like it was a holiday. Right, let's go to South Africa and have a holiday. They were told to play. They've got to go over there and play. So for them to be stuck there and to have no help, I think is appalling. And I think that they're coming back tomorrow. I'm not sure where they're going to go, but they'll have to go somewhere. And apparently the Scarlets were stuck in the Holiday Inn in Belfast, and the only delivery they could get was KFC. So there'd be a few of the boys would be quite happy with that. I mean, 10 days of KFC, I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, they're all in the rooms on their own, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're like literally isolate one room at a time. How are they going to? I don't know how the Cardiff guys are going to play a game, or they're saying they're going to play the academy boys against Toulouse. So best of luck with that. But
the problem you got is you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want your team to be embarrassed by one of the European greats coming to your club and filling it with half a team basically of 7 or 8 internationals and the rest just academy players. But then every team is desperate for money. They're desperate for revenue. Ticket sales, boxes. The food and beverages that's sold during games. So it's worth a lot of money. So if you're like the COO or the CEO, then you want that game to go ahead because it's more money through your books. So I get why they're going to play it, but it could be a bit of a farce.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a farce for Munster as well. For anybody that's watching, 34 players are on their way home to Ireland. 14 are staying back in South Africa because they've tested positive or have been in close contact. So they have obviously a huge European Cup game after this weekend. It's going to be a crazy few weeks for them.
It's the knock-on effects, though, as well, isn't it? It's the knock-on effects of people not being able to work on top of that as well because games have been cancelled. So it's huge.
But why? And I know we're still on the rant here, but why does it have to be the same rule for everybody? I know you briefly went over it there, Shanks.
Yeah.
How can the boys not be let into the respective country, do the testing? If it all comes back clear, then you're allowed to get on and get back to training and mingle with the squad. And surely this 10-day quarantine at their own house, it just doesn't make sense. Well, not much has made sense over the last couple of years, in fairness, has it?
Instead, they're going to be doing Joe Wicks and eating KFC to stay fit for. Do you know what I mean? How are they in shape? They're 2 weeks, essentially going to do 2 weeks in isolation with a nice 12-hour flight to break it up and halfway along the way. They're going to be like soup sandwiches by the time they get off the plane, and then they're going to try and play Do you think that'll be John? Do you think that'd be the closest thing to prison? I mean, you've got experience. I actually spoke to Jim one week when it was the first lockdown, And I said, it feels like prison. He said, it's worse than prison. My kids are here. It wouldn't be far off.
Every cloud.
Every cloud. The kids aren't there.
Yeah.
So
take the positives.
Lads, on a lighter note, like, come on, let's get away from prison talking here. Let's look at the fashion police. Shanks, you pulled this out from the weekend. You were not happy. You were not happy.
I'm not happy. I just, if you wear something like that on your head, then you've got to be prepared, because like to wear a hat like that says, I don't care what's on the rest of my body. I've got no, it doesn't matter what I'm doing.
I have no self-respect.
Nothing. I mean,
you wouldn't see Graham Little wearing that hat, though, would you? Like, you wouldn't see Graham Little wearing that hat
at all. The tog of the hat as well. It's a thick hat. He's pulled it down really low as well. He's got a nice coat on. He's got a nice scarf. He's probably got some nice shoes on, some Patrick Cox shoes. But to wear a bobble hat like that, probably got some sort of sentimental reason now, and I'm going to feel really bad because he's going to tweet about it.
Just Grams or something. She made it.
It definitely looks homemade.
What about Big Jim? He seems to mix it up every week, from red coats to duffel coats to huge puffer jackets to grey gloves, black gloves, green gloves. He just seems to have an extended wardrobe for whatever the weather.
Yeah, that hat Jim's wearing is like a I'm going bald, but I want to be cool hat, isn't it?
Trying to.
I need to get one of those for next week.
Stevie, find out where he got it.
Well, hopefully they dress appropriately next week. Although I think I'm going to have the bin bag coat on, the David Flatman coat on next week in the
Ospreys. It's going to be cold.
It's due to be cold. But we'll keep moving, lads. Presenter's choice. New segment. 3 unknown topics are going to come up on the screen, and I get to choose which one we talk about. Most self-obsessed teammate, stingiest teammate or coach, a player you hated playing against. Stingiest teammate or coach, Shanks? It's a bad trait when people don't get their wallet out. I know we experience it a lot. The amount of players that come and go through teams, but who's been the tight arse that you've played with?
Go to John. I just have a little think. I got a room in my head which I'm just trying to find.
John, I know you can't say yourself, so anybody else?
Phil John.
I'm give him a
Phil John.
Phil John,
yeah. When I first went to Scarlet, he would always open the door for you when you went for a coffee. And I thought, what a great guy. And then he just knew he was furthest from the till, so he didn't have to order and pay. Never bought a single round of coffees the whole time I was there.
Yeah, we had Ben Blair. Do you remember Ben Blair, Kiwi?
Brilliant player.
Kiwi. Brilliant player. We used to come into training, and before training, you'd sit down at the table. He'd sit there and he'd just wait, and he wouldn't have a drink or anything. He'd just wait until someone come in and said, "Oh, does anyone want a coffee?" And he put his hand up there. Never used to like making his own coffee. He used to just hold his nerve until someone offered him one. I'm trying to think now. Who didn't used to like to pay?
Jeff Cross, another good one. He wasn't stingy. You weren't going to get a coffee, but you'd go to hotels, and you have like the nice pull-out trays with all the different tea bags and the big kind of unit ones. He wouldn't just take the tea bags; he'd take the unit as well. He'd take the whole thing home with him. Straight home, everything. If it wasn't nailed down, he's bringing it home. Literally, towels, bed sheets, phones. Mate, he's bringing
trouser press.
He's bringing a lot home.
What about you, Stevie?
There's a few now. Like usually the tight arses kind of hang out with each other a little bit too. So like you had Paul Marshall, who hung around with like Ian Humphreys, who hung around with Andrew Trimble, who hung around with like the highest paid player ever to play for Ulster, Ruan Pienaar. And they were all quite tight. And then, they never liked to open their wallet too much. But it's funny, like over the years. And then, like, you just don't say these names for no reason. Like, this has obviously been talked about between groups of other people involved in Ulster or whatever teams you played with. So yeah, you get a reputation for being a tight arse. It seems to stick for a long time.
Agreed.
So it does. So yeah, I think there's too many tight arses, especially with the amount of cash that they're currently earning. They should all be putting their hands in their pockets. Although maybe Rob or Cross wasn't earning too much cash back then, John, and that's why he was always looking for free coffee.
Maybe,
yeah. So here we'll keep moving. Preview next week. Just on the games, I suppose we'll start with the big one, Leinster versus Connacht. I'm not on that game. Who do you fancy?
Leinster.
Yeah.
Especially after losing. I think it's the worst thing that can happen to a good team like that. You always think it's the same like when you play against the All Blacks. You know, if they're coming to you after a loss, they don't often win. Well, maybe they do. The All Blacks do now. Who knows? Maybe their reign at the top is gone. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Not really.
They're going to get what? They're going to get 10, at least 10 internationals back. Gibson Park, I think he's still out with his quad, possibly. A couple other boys maybe picked up a few niggles, but nothing too serious. So like they're going to be well oiled come the European kicking off again. John, just the Dragons this weekend, Glasgow this weekend. Who do you think?
Glasgow win. Yeah, I mean Glasgow play, as you saw the weekend. They play much better at home. Again, I think you'll get a reaction. They would have had a hard week after what happened over in Benetton. So yeah, I'd expect a comfortable-ish win for Glasgow. But I think also saying that, Dragons have played some nicer rugby this year. They look more organised. Their attack looks better. I don't know what happened to. I forgot to mind blank here.
Depends who's back, doesn't it? As well, depends what team selected. Depends whether Wainwright, Moriarty, not Wainwright. Moriarty, Wainwright, and Basham, whether they play, makes a big difference. I think.
Just on Basham. Yeah, just on Basham, Shanks. What's like? He's been around for a few years, but like, why is he just all of a sudden like?
At the moment,
he's been unbelievable. He really has, and like, where's his form coming from? He does look a bit stockier, a bit heavier, a bit more physical, but like
he carries the ball well from a smaller guy. He carries the ball like a machine.
Yeah, I think it's confidence and experience as well. Like sometimes it's difficult to burst onto the scene, like someone like George North could, because he was just a physical specimen, and he was fast, he was big, he's strong.
Playing for the Dragons every week gives you lots of confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, if he was at Cardiff or Ospreys, he probably would have happened a year earlier. But because he was in the Dragons, it took a little bit of time, maybe. But it does. Sometimes it takes a few caps and a run of games, maybe international level, just to feel comfortable and to feel confident when you're out in the field and confident in your own ability as well. But he's you're right, John. The way he carries the ball. It's like Sean O'Brien, he's like a pinball, isn't he? He's short, he's compact, low center of gravity. And I think to get the best out of him, you need someone on the other side, whether it's six it have to be six, that is very good over the ball, because it just allows him then to do a lot, to carry more so.
On Edinburgh, John, just a quick word on Edinburgh, just on their game against Benetton this week.
I think they'll be again at home. They're still going to play this mad style of rugby, and Benetton played arguably a similar brand of rugby. So, I'd expect Edinburgh to win at home. I think they'll look to improve their game management a bit. They'll have a few guys coming back. Hamish Watson, I'd imagine, will come back in. They look good. They look like a nice spot, nice groove at the moment, Edinburgh. So, I'm going for two Scottish wins. Not that I'm biased.
Oh, happy days. Ulster playing Ospreys. I'll be covering that, as I said earlier. Ulster beat Ospreys last year, and I just can't see Ulster getting beaten by the Ospreys. I just can't. I think they'll bring over a pretty solid team. Not too many changes. I'm loving the partnership of Stuart McCluskey and James Hume in the centre.
Yeah,
and the way the Ospreys were so weak in the centre defensive panels last week, Shanks. I certainly feel that Ulster are definitely the big favourites going into this one. So, yeah, hopefully I'm right. Hopefully you're right as well, John. And lastly, Shanks, I know there's one game on this week, Seashell Sharks against Vodacom Bills. But just
there's
on
two on, isn't there?
What's that? Oh, is there?
Both games are on, which I found bizarre, considering like all the teams had to leave because of this new variant, and then they brought the two derbies forward.
Oh yeah, Stormers Lions, yeah. But yeah, just on the debacle that's happening over there, Shanks, and then these two games coming up. What's your thoughts on that?
I think they're all quite evenly matched. I thought the Bulls were going to be the strongest team originally, but that might not be the case. I think a lot of it is down to selection and who comes back in. I quite like the Stormers. I think for me they're probably maybe the strongest team of the South Africans so far. But no, when they said they had to leave South Africa immediately and it was lockdown, I thought, oh wow, this is serious. And then all of a sudden they think, well, we've got two derbies on this weekend. You're thinking, all right. Maybe they could have played the games then. But I'm looking for the Stormers Lions is the one I'm looking forward to, mate, to be honest. But it's Wednesday now, when the team's probably be selected, Thursday, Friday. We'll see what sort of team they go with, whether they bring back all their stars or not. But I'm tipping the Stormers to finish top of the South African teams this year.
Yeah, well, it's right 12th versus 13th, and that's a 3:00 kickoff on Saturday. And yeah, it's going to be an awesome week. Lads, thank you so much for your insight, your opinion, your honesty. John Barclay, enjoy yourself. You're all the way in LA. What are you doing out there? Tell us before we go.
Just working. Just trying to get bread on the table for the kids. It's my day job.
You're on a golf trip then?
No, I'm not. I'm currently, you can see Beverly Hills over there. It's lovely. It's gorgeous.
Trying to make it in the acting world, do you?
Look out for John and the Kardashians next series.
Stevie, give us a look at the watch before we go. Just want to, yeah.
No, sure. It has to get fixed.
I've lost it again. It's not
the strap's broken. But anyway, we'll leave you. John, thanks very much for joining us all the way from LA. We'll see you again next week. That's all we have time for on the URC Unloaded. Don't forget you can catch every minute of every URC game live on Premier Sports. Head to premiersports.com for subscription details. Thanks everyone for watching, and remember, stand up for the Ulster men. See you next week.
Bye.